Yo, what is going on, Cover One crew? Hope everybody's doing great out there, man. It is Friday. Happy Friday to everybody. Allow me to be the first to say Merry Christmas and Happy Holidays to all of y'all. Enjoy your time with your families. Enjoy your time off if you get some. Hopefully you do. I'm going to get some time off, and I'm definitely looking forward to it. But first, before we get started, please smash that like button. You guys did great on the last video. Let's keep the momentum going. Helps us grow this channel that much more. And in the off season, I got you guys covered, man. NFL draft, player scouting reports, dynasty fantasy football, player profiles for next year's fantasy. I'm telling y'all, man, do not go no place. I got you covered. But what are we talking about today? We're talking start sit lineup advice for week number 16. Now that the Thursday night football game is in the books, I pegged that one pretty good, man. So check that video out. I got some good marks on that one. But nevertheless, let's get those trophies, man. Semifinals for the Fantasy Football Playoffs, week number 16. So like I've been telling y'all, it is do or die. It's time to win or go home, and nobody here wants to go home. We want to hoist those trophies, and I'm going to get you there. I'm telling y'all, man, started great on Thursday like I told y'all, but let's start on Arizona Cardinals taking on the Tampa Bay Buccaneers on Sunday Night Football on Christmas Day. We got no Kyler Murray. We got no Colt McCoy. We got Trace McSorley, and it's going to be a very sore day for him, I guarantee it. It's not a good look. These Arizona Cardinals are an absolute dump fire this year. Cliff Kingsbury should get fired at the conclusion of the regular season. High risk for McSorley. You're not playing him. James Conner, this entire offense, this is the problem now with the Arizona Cardinals. This entire offense is going to stumble because they don't have any viable quarterback play. McSorley is not your guy that you want to trust, man. James Conner, mid-level risk. You got to think they're going to try to attempt at least checkdowns and run the ball a lot to at least try to control this clock against Tom Brady and company. Mid-level risk. I don't like the start overall, but you could get some garbage time productivity, so fire up James Conner for those reasons alone. DeAndre Hopkins, he is a freak of nature. He can basically put up with any quarterback that's throwing him the ball. He got, 11 points last week, half PPR. So this week I'm expecting a very similar stat line, 11 to 15 points based on the PPR upside that he will get. They will scheme up ways to get him the ball, as is Marquise Hollywood Brown. A little bit less of a floor. I mean, I'm still giving him a mid-level risk just in case there is a big play shot that does go to him and he gets a touchdown. Outside of that, it is a very risky play to play Hollywood Brown. Greg Dortch and Trey McBride, they're getting high-level risks for me this week. You're not looking in that direction. Dortch is also dealing with a knee injury, so we could see a little bit more of A.J. Green, who is also washed up and seen better days. Not a good look for these Arizona Cardinals. The Atlanta Falcons taking on the Baltimore Ravens, still without Lamar Jackson, but we got... I don't know, man. These Falcons, they just got some heart. They know how to fight, man. Desmond Ridder did not look great in his first contest this past week. I mean, they ran the ball a ton, and a lot of that came from Tyler Algier. So mid-level risk for an Algier. I'm giving a mid-level to a Cordero Patterson as well. I think the MO is going to have to be, again, rushing the ball a lot versus the Baltimore Ravens. Pretty stout defense. So I really do fear for Desmond Ridder's life in this contest. I think they're going to blitz him out the wazoo, and it's not going to be good. High-level risk for Desmond Ridder, you're not touching that. Drake London, Zacchaeus, and Pruitt, they all get high-level risks. It's not a good game for the Atlanta Falcons. If you have Falcon players, the only upside is the rushing aptitude, the rushing upside of Patterson and Algier. And at this point, I'm probably going with Algier because he is kind of the bruising type of back, and he is going to hold up a little bit better versus the Baltimore Ravens defensive front. But either way, this is not a good team to start any players on unless you're really stuck. Algier is kind of the pick I'm going for in that contest. As for those Baltimore Ravens taking on the Atlanta Falcons, Tyler Huntley once again pegs the start because Lamar Jackson decides to hurt his knee. And I mean, okay, I was going to make a joke, but it's not joking about players' health. But Lamar Jackson screwed us all in fantasy football. But hey, that's part of the game, man. That's the whole reason why we play fantasy football. Tyler Huntley, mid-level risk versus the Falcons. He has not looked as good as I thought he would have. I mean, last time he took over for Lamar, he looked a lot better. The rushing upside was there. This time it's not so much. Only 30 points, basically just under 30 points for Huntley in 2 games. Yes, he did exit early at a 1 for concussion, but a Huntley mid-level risk, I don't really like it. I think there's better streaming options for you. J.K. Dobbins, on the other hand, fire this man up everywhere you got him. If you stashed him on your bench the entire season without an IR spot, I mean, congratulations to y'all. Some of us, we got him off the waiver wire, as did I. I am firing up J.K. Dobbins everywhere I got. A mid-level risk for a Gus Edwards. He's still going to get some volume. They're splitting the carries pretty well, and I think they're going to try to, stop Huntley from throwing the ball in excess, even against these Atlanta Falcons, especially with the fact that they lost Devin Duvernay to the injured reserve. They got no wide receiver, so you got to believe that J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards are going to have a boatload of rushing attempts. I got to say the Ravens might run this ball 35 times in this contest, so that pegs for good news for J.K. and Gus Edwards owners. Fire up J.K. I'm not really, as warm on the Gus Edwards start this week, but the volume upside could be there, so definitely look into that. James Prochet and Demarcus Robinson are your two wide receivers. That could be fantasy viable. Yes, Deshaun Jackson's still there. Don't really like that start, but Prochet does get a high risk. I've never been a huge fan of his game. He's kind of one of those possession wide receivers, nothing more, nothing less, not overly athletic, so I'm not trusting that. Demarcus Robinson, on the other hand, he does get a mid-level risk for me. He is a safe flex play. I do believe that they will be able to at least move the ball versus these Atlanta Falcons, and the PPR upside is there for Demarcus Robinson. Mark Andrews, man, I have not been able to give him a low-level risk for a while now, even a stud start. That's been like an afterthought since his injury. He's got a mid-level risk. Just not enough volume in this pass game to go to an Andrews, and he's been dropping passes. Just hasn't looked the same this season. He's got to be dealing with injuries. That's got to be the reason why the season just has not panned out. If you do have a better option than Mark Andrews, I would recommend taking it, but it's very difficult with tight ends because, there's not a lot of boom games coming from the tight end spot. The Buffalo Bills, the Bills Mafia, our Bills, taking on the Chicago Bears in Chicago, and it's going to be horrific weather, apparently. Snow, whiteouts, 50-mile-an-hour winds. It's not good news for fantasy production. Josh Allen still gets a low-level risk because of his rushing upside. He'll likely find the end zone with his legs once again. The Bills are favored, I believe, by 9 points. That seems a little heavy given the fact of weather and the fact that Justin Fields can run the ball extremely well himself. Devin Singletary, James Cook both get a mid-level risk for me. They're going to have to run the ball a lot, especially if the wind does take over this game and it's extremely hard to throw the ball. We shall see. So then it's going to be very limited to who Josh Allen is going to throw the ball to. You got to think Stephon Diggs has got to be the one that's going to get a majority of the target share. Maybe Dawson Knox on a quick outs here and there. Deep passes are completely gone, so you're not trusting that whatsoever. Devin Singletary, I don't hate the start because volume should definitely be there. James Cook, more of a, I want to say, high risk to mid-level risk, in that regard. I don't necessarily love the play, but I think there's better options. I think it's just too important in the semifinals. Even if James Cook finds his way into the end zone again, very hard to trust. I don't like it right now. Stephon Diggs gets a mid-level risk due to weather. Otherwise, this would have been a stud start for this man against Chicago's secondary that has seen better days due to injury. Stephon Diggs, mid-level risk. It's the playoffs. You got to play him. You got to start him. Hopefully, Josh Allen can find him on, shorter, maybe we get good PPR upside because of maybe 5-10-yard outs and routes that he does take in this offense in this contest, because if that wind is what it is going to be, it's going to be very hard to throw the ball. Gabe Davis, Isaiah McKenzie both get high-level risks. I'm not playing it, especially if the weather is what it's going to be. You cannot trust it because Gabe is more your deep shot guy. I just don't trust it. Isaiah McKenzie, same mid-cross, 20 yards down the field, going to be very hard to hit. Dawson Knox continues his TD-dependent upside. In this game, you could definitely start a Dawson Knox because of the short passes and his ability to run after the catch. I do not dislike a Dawson Knox this week. The Carolina Panthers taking on the Detroit Lions. Detroit, man, stand up, y'all. 7-7, and you guys are vying for a playoff spot. Unbelievable turnaround that you guys did. I've been preaching support for Detroit. You guys have a roster to definitely like as you move forward into the future. Sam Darnold is the starting quarterback for the Carolina Panthers, mid-level risk. We know that the Detroit Lions have shored up their defensive problems and their inadequacy these past few weeks, but they still give up big plays in the pass game. So Sam Darnold, he hasn't been asked to do a lot, man, game manager type of stuff. But him and DJ Moore for me, I think could, get on the same page once again, even though the defenses did adjust last week. And after DJ Moore scored that touchdown, he was basically invisible. So mid-level risk for Sam Darnold, 10 to 13 points is kind of your ceiling you're going to get for this man. Deontay Foreman, Chuba Hubbard, they're going to have some good upside in the rushing game. I think it's going to be Deontay Foreman day. Low-level risk for that man where Chuba gets a mid-level risk. I think Foreman, they want to have that smash-mouth running game in this contest. Foreman is the bruising type of back, and he should give you decent levels of productivity. Hopefully he finds his way into the end zone. That's kind of what I'm banking on in this contest, that he's going to be able to run free and get into that end zone because it's been a minute since he's been back in there scoring 6. Chuba's going to be the big play, change of pace guy, I'd rather start a Foreman over a Hubbard at this point. DJ Moore, I'm going to continue to give him a low-level risk. I think Sam Darnold knows enough and how to get him the ball at least that to give you the safe floor. If he finds the end zone again, then he hits and he booms and you're smiling with 14 points. Terrace Marshall, mid-level risk. You're not starting that, nor are you. Tommy Tremble with a high-level risk for these Carolina Panthers. The Chicago Bears taking on the Buffalo Bills, like I mentioned, in windy Chicago. Justin Fields does get the low-level risk, even though this offense is literally crippled with injuries. They got nobody left. Chase Claypool is out. We got Equanimeous St. Brown. Sorry, I butcher your name all the time, but he's out as well. So Byron Pringle, Dante Pettis are your top wide receivers in this contest. It is not a good look in Chicago. Good Lord. Justin Fields, again, is going to be running for his life. You got to think the Buffalo Bills are going to be blitzing a lot and, keeping a spy back and keeping a lot of pressure on Justin Fields, as he will not have many wide receivers to throw to. But the caveat is, if it is that windy, once again, you know that Justin Fields can take off and run like a bat out of hell, and they do potentially get Khalil Herbert back in this game. So that would be a trio-headed monster on the ground between David Montgomery, Herbert, and Justin Fields that could put up a lot of rushing yards in this contest versus the Buffalo Bills. Low-level risk, like I said, for Fields. You can fire him up everywhere. David Montgomery, mid-level risk, only because Herbert could come back. If Herbert does not get designated to return, then it's a low-level risk for David Montgomery, even though the Buffalo Bills defense has improved somewhat on the ground, except for the last game, and it seems that Von Miller's absence definitely opened up some more holes to the run game. So David Montgomery, I can definitely suggest firing him up once again this week. Pringle, Pettis, and Kmet, high-level risks. I am not touching those players in the fantasy football semifinals whatsoever. The Cincinnati Bengals taking on the New England Patriots. Joey B continues his, unbelievable pace. This guy's just throwing the ball everywhere. Even though he didn't look good to start that game last week, he finished very strong. 13 boom games for this man out of 14. It's just a great season for Joey B overall. 325 fantasy points. Low-level risk once again against the Patriots, who, I don't even know what the hell y'all did to lose that game, man. Jacoby Myers, man, I don't know what you were doing, sir, but Joe Burrow's going to be up for this contest. He knows that they need to continue on the pace to match the Buffalo Bills and the Kansas City Chiefs in the win column, so Joey B is going to be absolutely stellar once again. Joe Mixon is a mid-level risk for me. I do not like what's going on in this run game for Cincinnati. It is very ugly overall. Sam J. Pirine, high-level risk. You're starting Joe Mixon, obviously, because you drafted him. If you still have him in the playoffs, which I highly doubt because he hasn't done enough for you. But, I mean, Joe Mixon to me is just, I don't know, man. It's not there for me. I'm not excited to play a Joe Mixon this week, even though I know you got to do it. Sam J. Pirine, high-level risk. Even the goal line upside is gone for that man as Joe Mixon is back. Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, both low-level risks because Joe B can find him, and he's going to find him again in this contest. New England has seen better days as well. Defensively, I mean, they're dealing with some injuries. Also, Jamar Chase should eat him alive, and T. Higgins is a wide receiver one on anybody else's team, so you're firing up those individuals. Tyler Boyd, mid-level risk. There is some PPR upside, but I would rather look in another direction. Too many mouths to feed, especially with the fact that Joey B is going to find his top dogs in this contest. Hayden Hurst is a questionable once again, looking on the right side of returning in this contest with a calf injury. I would put him on the bench this week because I don't like the matchup, and I do not like a player coming off, an injury that hasn't played in a couple of weeks to get his feet wet before we trust it, man. Cleveland Browns taking on the New Orleans Saints. Okay, Deshaun Watson, I mean, you looked again, you're a little bit better, taking strides, you're moving the ball, but what the hell has happened to this run game in Cleveland, y'all? I have no idea. Nick Chubb, Deshaun Watson, mid-level risk. I don't necessarily like it. I think that you can find something better, but New Orleans, the team overall, the offense is so bad that Deshaun Watson might get a few more possessions come his way this week, so Deshaun is a mid-level. I want to say 10 to 17 points. Somewhere in that range is what I'm expecting for Deshaun Watson. Nick Chubb gets a low-level risk. He was dealing with a foot injury. He was not on an injury designation as the injury reports did come out. I just don't know what's going on with this run game on Cleveland right now. They completely abandoned it. It's not the same. It's not working like it was. Kareem Hunt, you can't trust it. You're starting Nick Chubb everywhere you got him, obviously. Kareem Hunt, mid-level risk, only because Nick Chubb dealing with that injury. There is enough concern to suggest that Kareem Hunt could steal a lot more touches in this contest as he would have replaced Nick Chubb if he did not play in this contest. However, as long as Nick Chubb is playing, Kareem Hunt cannot be started, so definitely just watch pregame just in case something does change or transpire, but I'll give a mid-level risk just because he might see some volume upside this week. Amari Cooper, mid-level risk, had to drop him down from low level. Deshaun Watson just can't find him with any levels of consistency, and he's absolutely crippled your fantasy team. It just does not look good. Where Donovan Peoples-Jones, he's a low-level risk because he's just scoring points out the wazoo too, and you got to love it, man. Every week, DPJ is starting to do some stuff. Better chemistry with Deshaun Watson at this point. I don't know what the heck is going on with Amari Cooper, but I mean, do I start Amari? I would actually probably bench Amari in this case. Don't like it whatsoever until I see it on the field. It's just far too, important of a week to trust that. But, I mean, I'm kind of being a hypocrite because I go against my thing of saying start your studs, and Amari Cooper is a stud. Fine, we'll say mid-level risk, fire him up, but do not expect a lot. How about we go there and we meet halfway in the middle? DPJ, you're firing him up. David Njoku, mid-level risk. He's very much boomer bust, but the Saints don't cover the tight end very well, so I will fire up Aiden Njoku this week. The Dallas Cowboys taking on the Philadelphia Eagles. Dak Prescott, man, I don't know what you did last week, throwing interceptions to lose your game. Mid-level risk against the Philadelphia Eagles that do not have Jalen Hurts. Yes, they might get more possessions as well because Gardner Minshew is a quarterback for the Eagles this week. I just don't like what Dak has been doing overall these past several weeks. I think hopefully you have a better option. If you don't, I understand starting them. Zeke Elliott, Tony Pollard, mid-level for Zeke or a low-level for Tony Pollard. Pollard has been killing it, man. 10 boom games, 216 half PBR points. Pollard is your guy. Zeke is the touchdown upside guy. So you're starting both these men as well, I want to say, because, they're going to run the ball a lot, try to, institute the play-action pass once again. Like I said, no Jalen Hurts, so the offense in Philly may be hard-pressed to gain time of possession and control the clock. CeeDee Lamb, low-level risk. Last time he played these Eagles, he played very well. And I think that, at times the Eagles secondary can be gashed, even though they are very good on the back end. CeeDee Lamb, low-level risk. I think Dak is going to do more than enough to feed CeeDee Lamb over 15 points this week. Michael Gallup, high-level risk. You're not touching that. Where Dalton Schultz gets a mid-level risk. I want to see Dak go back to Dalton this week. I think it's very important for him to get back to him. That way it'll open up CeeDee Lamb that much more. Dalton Schultz is a very safe play for me. Hopefully he finds his way back in the end zone as well. The Denver Broncos taking on the LA Rams on Christmas Day. And this one's going to be ugly. This will probably be when everybody's eating their food, you have it on in the background. You're not really paying attention to this one because this one could be pretty ugly. Russell Wilson likely back from his concussion this week. Mid-level risk versus the Rams. I do not hate streaming Russell Wilson this week, especially back from a week off. He's going to be able to understand how to play the Rams. The Rams are in complete disarray. Injuries all over the field. They are not the same team whatsoever. And Russell Wilson, before he got the concussion, he had a very big game, almost 30 fantasy points. The run game is working with Lat Murray as well. Mid-level risk for both these men, Wilson and Murray this week. You can fire both these men up. I do believe this week to get a good amount of point productivity. Jerry Jeudy continues the low-level risk. I think if Russell Wilson does play in this game, he's going to, again, force-feed Jerry Jeudy as he should be likely the number one target once again. Courtland Sutton is still dealing with that hamstring injury, but he is on the questionable tag, so he should suit up this week, as is Kendall Hinton. But, I mean, you're not touching that for fantasy football. Greg Dulcich, high-level risk. I don't like the play versus the Rams. They do cover the tight end extremely well with their safeties and linebackers. So I think Jerry Jeudy, Russ Wilson, and Lat Murray do have a decent performance in this contest. The Detroit Lions taking on those Carolina Panthers, like I mentioned. Low-level risk for Jared Goff and DeAndre Swift. Fire them up everywhere you got them. I think that Jared Goff, it's going to be cold. We get it. I believe it's below 0 or below 32 in this contest. So it's going to be cold. I mean, so we'll see. 25 degrees, I think, is what they're calling for this game. So, I mean, it's going to be cold for these guys, but Jared Goff, he should be able to at least carve up this Carolina Panthers defense quite a bit. So I like it. I think that they got so many weapons on this Detroit Lions team that you can actually start a Jared Goff and be pretty comfortable with it. DeAndre Swift, he got a lot more carries this past week. We just got to see this man get into the end zone, and I do believe he's going to score this week. It's been far too long. The consistency trends on my charts say that it should happen this week, so I'm going with the charts, baby. Analytics, let's do it, baby. Jamal Williams, mid-level risk. He's kind of taking a backseat to how they're moving this offense. More passing from Jared Goff, more rushing upside for DeAndre Swift. So Jamal, unless he finds his way inside the 5-yard line, getting goal line touches, I think that they're going to continue the backseat approach and give DeAndre Swift more touches. Amon-Ra St. Brown continues his low-level risk. You fire him up everywhere you got. He's a safe PPR play every week. Jamison Williams continues his boomer bust, way of play right now. You're not trusting that in any fantasy football realm at this point. DJ Chark, mid-level risk. He did bust on you last week, but 3 consistent games, you got to expect a bust is going to come in number 4. So this week could be another, return to glory. I do like DJ Chark in your flex spot right now. Brock Wright, high level risk, even though he found his way into the end zone last week. That was more of a fluke rather than the consistent trends for me. The Green Bay Packers and Aaron Rodgers taking their talents to Miami, playing these Dolphins where they got squished by the Bills. Let's see if Aaron Rodgers can continue, man. They're still alive in the playoff push. Aaron Rodgers is going to play very well, even though the Dolphins' defense is very good. I'm giving mid-level risk to an Aaron Rodgers. Going to be tough sledding for him. Aaron Jones, low-level risk if he suits up. This is a problem. Now he's got a knee injury. He's got a shin injury. He's got an ankle injury. The guy's body is broken at this point. Still trusting in Aaron Jones. If he's on the field, you're definitely firing him up, as you are with A.J. Dillon. He's got a goal line upside up the wazoo, too. I think I've used that word 3 times. I got to use a different word at this point. But, I mean, A.J. Dillon, goal line upside. He's been playing very well the past 3 weeks. You can definitely trust A.J. Dillon at this point. Alan Lazard, high-level risk. You're not starting that. Christian Watson, mid-level risk, as is Romeo Doubs. And I think that they got some working here with Doubs and Watson, kind of like they wanted to see why they drafted both these men this past offseason. I think that they're both pretty safe flex options this week as well. Robert Tonyan, high-level risk. You're not playing him this week whatsoever. The Houston Texans taking on the Tennessee Titans, and the Titans have seen better days as well. Houston Texans, I don't know what's going on with y'all, but I told y'all last week, this secondary in Houston is not bad, okay? And yeah, okay, we're sitting here saying because they're a 1-12-1 team, they're not good and they're not going to be able to compete. They got fight in them as well. They're just not, going to win games. That's not what they're doing right now, but they are competing. They are playing with a lot of heart, and that defensive secondary is very strong. So they will give Malik Willis, because Ryan Tannehill's out, they will give Malik Willis a run for his money, as will, the pass catchers that they do have. So, I mean, the Tennessee Titans, on the other hand, their defense is just stumbling. They do not look good. They have so many injuries to contend with. I think the season's going to be over, and I would not even be surprised if we see an upset in this contest. David Mills, mid-level risk. Rex Burkhead and the other running back, I'm not going to pronounce his name. I butchered it too many times, man. High-level risk. You're not playing the running backs in Houston this week, even though it is the Titans. Brandon Cooks does get mid-level risk, as does Chris Moore, even though Moore does pop up on the injury report with a questionable tag. Cooks should be back in this contest from the calf injury. I do like Brandon Cooks in this game versus Tennessee Titans secondary that has been, gashed up with injuries, and they will give up a lot of plays to the wide receivers. Chris Moore is a little bit more risky for me. Don't necessarily like it unless you have to and you're dealing with injuries. But, I mean, you probably aren't in the fantasy semifinals that way if you have injuries galore. But, nevertheless, Brandon Cooks should be able to at least carve up this secondary quite a bit. The Indianapolis Colts and the constant revolving door of poo that is the Indianapolis Colts. Nick Foles, man. Matt Ryan finds a way back to the bench. Nick Foles is now your starting quarterback. High-level risk against these LA Chargers on Monday Night Football. You're not playing Nick Foles. He hasn't played football in a while. There's going to be some rust there. It's just, man, it's just not good for this offense all over, man. Jonathan Taylor out with the, he's on the injured reserve with his ankle. He is out for the entire season. So it's Deion Jackson, Zach Moss. I'm going with Deion Jackson more than what the consensus is saying. Everyone's saying because Zach Moss took like 25, 28 touches last week, they think that Zach Moss is, again, going to be the main, benefactor of volume in this contest. I think they're going to go back to the well a little bit. They're going to go to Deion Jackson. He's going to see more volume than a Zach Moss. They wanted to see what Zach Moss had, and 3.6 yards per carry is just not going to cut it. So I think Deion Jackson is going to be your guy, especially in the pass game where Zach Moss can catch, but I think they like Deion Jackson in that respect. So if you're stuck at running back, it's Deion over Zach Moss for me, even though Zach Moss does have volume floor, very safe volume floor. Michael Pittman, mid-level risk. I think he's going to be the only viable pass-catching option in this contest from a Nick Foles. Outside of that, Alec Pierce, Paris Campbell, high-level risk. Jelani Woods is a boomer bust product every single week. You got him. You're not playing that. Way too volatile for me to trust. Kansas City taking on the Seattle Seahawks. There's a lot of green on my board right now. If you guys are seeing this on YouTube, man, I'm telling y'all, Patrick Mahomes stud start. We got Isaiah Pacheco, low-level risk. Jerick McKinnon, low-level risk. Fire all those guys up, man. Seattle's defense is still pretty good in the secondary, but they hemorrhage yards on the ground, so you got to believe that Andy Reid is definitely going to exploit that with Pacheco, and Jerick McKinnon has just been a man possessed these past several weeks. He's just catching everything to come his way. Yards after the catch, finding the end zone. Jerick McKinnon over an Isaiah Pacheco, in my opinion. If you're having a choice choice between the two, but Pacheco is got a safe enough floor that he could find the end zone this week as well. Juju Smith-Schuster gets a mid-level risk for me because the Seattle Seahawks secondary is still very good against wide receivers, and I think he's going to struggle again. Maybe gets you 5 catches, 55 yards. Hopefully he finds his way into the end zone to save his fantasy day. MVS, I'm not starting this week. High-level risk. Travis Kelce, on the other hand, it is a stud start performance. We're going to see it, man. Seattle cannot cover tight ends for the life of them, and Travis Kelce's going to, absolutely explode this week. I have no doubt in my mind. The LA Chargers taking on those Colts on Monday Night Football. Like I said, Justin Herbert had a regretful day outside of the last minute of the contest last week. Was just very ugly. Very, not what we're used to. I was lost for words today. But, Justin Herbert, we haven't seen him play that poorly in a very long time. And I think he's going to bounce back quite well this week. Even though the Colts defense is still pretty stout, they're going to be checked out. There's no way they're playing hard for Nick Foles. The season is over. They're 7-6. They know they're not going to the playoffs. The defense, they've been playing very well. Steph Gilmore and company. But, I think that Justin Herbert and this run game, especially from the LA Chargers, they're going to do very, very well. Herbert, low-level risk. Eckler, low-level risk. Keenan Allen, low risk. Start up all those guys. Keenan Allen, safe floor for PPR upside, even though I do believe that we're going to see Steph Gilmore on a Mike Williams rather than a Keenan Allen. So there's a benefit for you to start Keenan Allen over a Mike Williams. Josh Palmer and Mike Williams do get mid-level risks for me. I would obviously start Mike Williams over Josh Palmer at this point simply because of target share. Josh Palmer is going to get 6 to 8 points now per week because there's just not enough balls to go around. Gerald Everett could find himself a decent player this week, 8 to 12 points. I want to believe mid-level risk for him. You're firing up because he's been pretty consistent for you at the tight end spot. The Los Angeles Rams taking on the Denver Broncos. It's going to be an ugly game, man, regardless of what you want to cut it, man. Baker Mayfield, high-level risk. Did not look good, okay? This guy just don't practice the man. He'll play better. He just did not look good this past game against Green Bay. Cam Akers, high-level risk versus the Denver stout run defense. And why do I say that? They just got to stack the box. Who's going to really, cripple them in the pass game? Still got Patrick Surtain and company. They're just ball hawks all over the Denver secondary. Van Jefferson maybe gets some sprinkles, but it's just not near enough. Baker Mayfield can't support this offense that is got second stringers basically playing with them. Van Jefferson, mid-level risk. Tutu Atwell, high-level risk because Ben Skoranek is out with an injury. Tyler Higbee, he does get a mid-level risk. He's probably the safest pass-catching option in this game for the LA Rams because Baker Mayfield could find him on checkdowns, hot reads, and in the red zone if they do get there. So Higbee, I don't hate the start, but everyone else, look the other way. It's not a good look, man. The Las Vegas Raiders taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers in what was the 50th anniversary of the greatest catch by the Pittsburgh Steelers. I can't remember his name. He just passed away. Rest in peace to one of the all-time greats. His name evades me right now. But, Las Vegas taking on these Steelers in Pittsburgh. And Derek Carr, I do believe this is kind of, a very good game for Derek Carr. Even though the Steelers defense has improved the past couple weeks, This is it, man. They're still in the playoff hunt. They got to put up or shut up, and I think Derek Carr is going to definitely put up in this game. Low-level risk. I'm starting him where you got him on his streaming quarterback issues. If you got Jalen Hurts, if you got Lamar Jackson, you're looking for quarterback, Derek Carr is definitely one I'm playing this week. There's always a risk he's going to toss some picks, but I think Derek Carr has a 20-point performance this week for y'all. Josh Jacobs continues his absolute dominance on every single run defense that he does face. 272.8 half PPR fantasy points for Josh Jacobs. This guy's been killing it. 11 boom games. Just absolute revelation this year. He's a definite fire up, as is Devontae Adams. He kind of had the day off last week. They went to Hollins. They went to Waller a little bit more. I think this is a bounce back game for Devontae Adams. He should be force fed on the regular. Mac Hollins does get a mid-level risk. There's enough target share to come his way to trust in a flex spot if you need him. Hunter Renfrow, high-level risk. You're not trusting that. And Darren Waller does possess TD upside once again. Just don't think there's going to be enough of the target share to go to Darren Waller consistently enough, but he could get you a touchdown, which would be a good sight for tight ends and saving his day. The Miami Dolphins taking on those Green Bay Packers. Like I mentioned, they had a big loss to the Buffalo Bills. They played well. You can't, fault them for the loss. Tua didn't look great, but the run game looked absolutely stupendous. Tua, I'm giving him a mid-level risk. It's in Miami. It's in the warm. Green Bay, They got some issues all over the team. They don't play great offensively, and the Miami Dolphins defense is good. Tua should get some more possessions in this game. If the run game does continue the way it did against the Bills versus Green Bay, this could be a very good day play action-wise, especially for guys like Tyreek Hill. Jeff Wilson is still an injury risk, questionable with a hip. They're saying he's trending to play in the right direction, but that's a very tricky thing with a hip on a running back. I would definitely look to Raheem Mostert again for the low-risk play. He should carry the backfield once again. Tyreek Hill, Jalen Waddle, low-level risks. Start your studs, baby. It is the playoffs. You're firing both these guys up. I think Tyreek Hill absolutely eats against Green Bay. So does Jalen Waddle. They're going to definitely get you over 10 to 12 points in this contest. Perhaps both of them find their way into the end zone. It's going to be very good. Mike Gesicki, you are not starting. He's been invisible for weeks now. Minnesota, and the greatest comeback in NFL history. Are you kidding me? I couldn't believe what I was watching. Y'all tune out of these games. Never tune out. I'm a football guy. I watch everything. What a game. What a comeback. Unbelievable. Kirk Cousins, yeah, you faltered early. Yes, the 2 interceptions weren't necessarily your fault. You could blame those on Jalen Reagor, but I mean, he came back. He showed some moxie, showed some fight. Now they're going up against the New York Giants. Kirk Cousins, low-level risk. It's in Minnesota, so I'm giving him low-level risk at home in the Dome. Dalvin Cook, he gets a low-level risk. Best game we've seen out of him this past week versus the Colts in that greatest comeback. He looked good, and I think, this is the first time in a long time that we've had a healthy Dalvin Cook heading into the semifinals. Praise the Lord! It's just... This is going to be so good. I got Dalvin Cook shares everywhere, and I'm hoping we see another 20-point show. Going to be a little tougher because the Giants' defense is pretty good, but I think they're going to be able to move the ball quite well, and Dalvin Cook should find the end zone. JJ, Justin Jefferson, low-level risk. Giants will not be able to keep up because nobody can with JJ. He's going to have another very big day. Adam Thielen, KJ Osborne. Here's where the conundrum does happen with the Minnesota Vikings offense. Who do you play? Who do you trust? Who do you start? Adam Thielen, he's getting a lot less target share, but he's being pegged in the red zone once again, so he'll get his 4 catches, and you're hoping for a touchdown, so the floor is extremely low. I put mid-level because Kirk Cousins still has good chemistry with the man, and he will find him in the end zone. KJ Osborne is starting to carve out a little bit of a role for himself. Now we got a little bit of foreshadow to say they can move on from Adam Thielen next year and start trusting KJ Osborne. Very, very possible. We'll see how that does go in the offseason. KJ Osborne, it's still very risky. I'm going to put a mid-level because he showed out well enough to earn more targets. It's just a risk in the semifinals. If you have nothing, there is good upside for KJ Osborne as coverage does get dictated to JJ's side. Adam Thielen still pulls it from the slot, so KJ Osborne should do in the damage. I like KJ Osborne as a potential flex with some level of risk, but good upside for PPR. TJ Hawkinson, maybe this is the week TJ comes back too, but I mean, he's been kind of, sprinkled in, here and there. It's not been what we've expected when he came over from the Lions. So I'm going to pass on TJ Hawkinson this week. I know he's one of the starters, one of the studs at the tight end spot. So if you have him, play him. I get it. Just temper the expectations because under 10 points is definitely there once again for TJ Hawkinson if he doesn't find the end zone, and he's just not enough of the target share, especially if they're going to go and keep opening up the playbook to KJ Osborne. So it will be interesting to see you firing up all those wide receivers because there is potential for good point productivity. The New England Patriots taking on the Cincinnati Bengals. Must-win game for the Patriots, so their season is basically done, and I think it's done anyway. You're not beating the Cincinnati Bengals. Mac Money Jones is, he's very angry. He's an angry man. He's an angry human being, and I don't blame him. I'd be angry if Matt Patricia was calling plays to me, too. You can't trust Mac Money Jones. Who you can trust, Ramondre Stevenson, low-level risk. He's carrying this offense on his back. 11 boom games. Damian Harris still dealing with his thigh injury. Even if he comes back, this backfield belongs to Ramondre Stevenson, so he's a low level. You're firing him up everywhere you got him. Jacoby Myers, mid-level risk, but it's just too volatile for me. I'm not starting him. There is mid-level because of PPR upside. But I don't like it. It's too much to trust in such an important fantasy game. Injury risk to Devontae Parker, high level for Aguilar, high level for Hunter Henry. You can't trust it, man. I'm sorry. There might be some good garbage time productivity versus the Bengals, but I'm not touching anything outside of Ramondre. Dre, don't fail us now. We need you. Cincinnati may give up some rushing yards because they lost a lot of interior linemen, so that definitely watch for that. We could see Ramondre have a very big day in that respect. The New Orleans Saints taking on the Cleveland Browns. And, man, have we seen rosters depleted with injuries? New Orleans is definitely one of these clubs, man. No Chris Olave. He's out with a hammy. We got Jarvis Landry. He's out. He's on the IR. He's not coming back this year. So we got Andy Dalton, Alvin Kamara, Shaheed. We got Traquan Smith making another appearance once again. We got Juwan Johnson, Taysom Hill. Really? You want to start any of these guys? Because I really don't, outside of Alvin Kamara. I mean, really? I don't like it. I think it's a hot garbage, and it's not going to do very well. High-level risk for Andy Dalton. Cleveland defense still is very good, and they're going to rush after Andy Dalton quite a bit. Myles Garrett, watch out for the bum rush because it's coming. Alvin Kamara, there's two modes of thought that I had here. So either Alvin Kamara, because of the lack of wide receiver talent they do have now, especially with Chris Olave out, you got to believe, are they going to use Alvin Kamara more in the pass game, or is that going to go to the tight end spot? That's kind of what I'm thinking here. So if it is Alvin Kamara day, he's going to see a lot of PPR upside. If he doesn't, it's going to go to Taysom Hill and Juwan Johnson. That's kind of how I'm seeing this go out. So it is a risk. But Alvin Kamara, if you're still in the playoffs with an Alvin Kamara, I got to say low level. I got to believe they're going to feed this man. He's the best player they have on the field. Why would you not feed this man the ball and feed him the rock with high levels of target share? You got to think it's coming. Alvin Kamara, low-level risk. Where we got Shaheed, he's got high upside because he's got wheels for days. He may score you a touchdown. Where Traquan Smith should be the highest targeted wide receiver. He's able to make plays. He does have some dropping problems. I don't like the play. He might get lucky with a touchdown. Juwan Johnson, Taysom Hill. Mid-level for a Johnson, where boomer bust continues for Taysom Hill, but this might be one of the safer days you play Taysom because they're just going to keep feeding him volume because there are no other viable pieces that they can move the ball on for the Cleveland Browns. The New York Giants taking on those Minnesota Vikings. Danny Pennies, man. Danny Pennies, you're killing me, dude. You're lucky that I made it from, I started him last week, hoping that he was going to get me through. I barely made it to the semifinals because of you, man. 8 points. You absolutely crippled my club, man. Mid-level risk versus the Minnesota Vikings defense that has seen, extremely leaky holes in that defensive secondary. They do not look good. Daniel Jones, if you cannot do it this week for people, they're trusting you. I don't even know what other nickname I can give you. I'm already at the bottom floor with Danny Pennies, man, but it's a risk. It's a mid-level risk for me. You hope rushing upside is there, but, it's very difficult to trust Daniel Jones at this point. Saquon, on the other hand, he should be able to run free in this contest. You got to believe it's coming. Low-level risk for Saquon this week. PPR upside always there. Darius Slayton does get the mid-level risk, even though Daniel Jones has not been finding his wide receivers with any levels of consistency. I am not starting any one of these wide receivers this week in the semifinals, but to risk rank these individuals, Slayton mid-level, Richie James PPR upside, where Hodgins still continues to be the TD upside player on this offense. Daniel Bellinger, high-level risk. So outside of, potentially streaming a Daniel Jones and you're starting up Saquon, it's hard to trust any other player on this Giants team right now as they're pegged, and they're looking that they might miss the postseason as they're playing. Minnesota should be able to take care of business quite a bit in this game unless Saquon goes absolutely beast mode. I was, again, man, I don't know what's wrong. Maybe I'm having a stroke. I can't talk today, but he's going to go beast mode. I got to believe Saquon is that guy. Philadelphia taking on the Dallas Cowboys. No Jalen Hurts, like I mentioned. He's out with that injury, the shoulder injury. I was surprised the way that he folded and the defensive lineman fell on him. I thought it was a broken collarbone. I thought that was it for y'all Philly fans. You lucked out, man. So a shoulder injury, Gardner Minshew, he's a serviceable backup, mid-level risk versus the Dallas Cowboys defense that is way too opportunistic. They got to corral that stuff in. They're giving up way too many plays. They're always trying for the turnover. Very high blitzing team. Very much a boomer bust defense at this point. Gardner Minshew will have his struggles in this contest. He may throw an interception or two, but Minshew is a reliable guy, especially with the offense that they do have in Philadelphia. Miles Sanders, he absolutely crapped the bed for us last week. He's like, I don't care about your fantasy team. We care, Miles. They're gonna utilize Miles a lot this game. They did not rush the ball a lot with him last week, and the coach said already they got to get Miles utilized more in this run game. Obviously, now without Jalen Hurts, you got Gardner Minshew. You're going to try to establish the run, all the opportunities that you have. Miles Sanders, low-level risk. Fire Miles everywhere. Fire him up everywhere you got him because he should have at least 15 touches in this contest on the ground. A.J. Brown, low-level risk. Grown-ass man. What else can you say? He's going to find the ball. He's going to help Gardner Minshew. A.J. Brown is definitely a safe play for me this week. Devontae Smith, on the other hand, mid-level risk. There might just not be enough passes to go around to feed everybody. I think A.J. Brown is going to take majority share of of it all, and Dallas Goedert should be back this week from his injury off the IR. Mid-level risk for me. What I say about, inexperienced quarterbacks or, lesser quarterbacks, they always look for the tight end. Check down safe read and safe option. Dallas Goedert can be trusted for at least 6 targets in this contest. The Pittsburgh Steelers taking on those Las Vegas Raiders. Like I said, Kenny Pickett's coming back from his concussion. Mid-level risk. It's the Raiders' defense. They're gashable, and I think that Kenny Pickett's going to have a decent day for streaming players. I'm not trusting it this week. I want to see him back from the concussion before we can trust that again. I know the season's basically done, so, hopefully you don't have to play a Kenny Pickett as a streamer. Mid-level risk for him anyway. Najee Harris dealing with a hip injury himself. He's a low-level risk for me as well this week. Najee's been playing very well these past several weeks. You got to know, he's been dealing with an injury this entire season. The offensive line is absolutely piss poor. You know it's not good. Najee Harris, to me, low-level risk. I think he's going to do another touchdown run in this contest. He will have a very safe floor for y'all. Deontay Johnson is dealing with a toe injury, so I'm giving him a mid-level risk this week. But now with Kenny Pickett back, he's going to go back to the well and go to George Pickens. So I'm saying high upside for George Pickens this week. I think this is how we're going to see it. Trubisky finds Deontay where Kenny Pickett's got a better chemistry level with George Pickens. I think he's got the higher upside out of the wide receiver room this week. Pat Freiermuth, the Muth, went to bed last week and killed y'all. 0 points on 0 targets, if I'm not mistaken. So Pat Freiermuth, it's a rebound week. I got to drop him down to a mid-level risk, even though the Las Vegas Raiders are not very good at covering any wide receivers really in this season. Pat Freiermuth should have a bounce-back game to some degree where he should get you anywhere from 6 to 9 points. If he scores a touchdown, you're over 12, so you got to love that. Start up Pat Freiermuth. Hopefully he breaks out for you this week. The San Francisco 49ers taking on the Washington Commanders. Brock Purdy. I'm done with the Purdy jokes because he does look Purdy on the field. I guess I got one more left in me. Mid-level risk, he's still dealing with the oblique injury. That's a little bit scary versus a front seven that's still pretty stout in Washington. But Brock Purdy's been doing very well. Kyle Shanahan's done a magical job in scheming up this offense for Brock Purdy to feel comfortable, have quick outs, quick throws, safe throws, schemed up pick plays, and Brock Purdy's been executing extremely well. I do believe that you can fire up a Brock Purdy once again this week versus the Commanders, and he should put you up again 15 to 20 on the board. Christian McCaffrey, low-level risk. Fire him up everywhere you got him, as always. I got Brandon Ayuk and George Kittle, both low-level risk. No Debo once again in this game. Ayuk, man, help me out, buddy. Help me out. I preached you last week, and you failed us all. I think the target share's got to go back to Ayuk, but Kittle's going to have another very good day, another strong showing. So we're kind of hoping the 5 targets that Ayuk does get, hopefully he finds his way into the end zone. 6 boom games. It's been a decent season for him, almost 150 points. It's good enough for, every other week flex play for Ayuk. I do believe he finds his way into the end zone this week. They're going to have to try to maneuver against this Washington front seven that is very good. So if they do stifle Christian McCaffrey in any way, shape, or form on the ground, Ayuk and Kittle could have a very big day. Where Jennings, mid-level risk, you got to know that there's got to be some supportive piece. I just don't think that Shanahan's going to, scheme up a lot to that individual in that sense. The Seattle Seahawks taking on the Kansas City Chiefs. Gino, your playoff lives are hanging in the balance versus the Kansas City Chiefs in Arrowhead. It's going to be a tough show, man. Kenneth Walker III still dealing with the ankle injury. He is still questionable. Watch out for that injury report. Watch out pregame. He may not suit up. He's on the better side of playing, but again, re-aggravating that injury in game, that could be a problem as well, man. But if he does play the Chiefs, they could actually, Kenneth Walker could have a very good day. Chiefs do struggle to stop players on the ground. DK Metcalf is now, once again, the default wide receiver 1 without Tyler Lockett now out with that broken finger. So Metcalf, is a low-level risk play. Fire up DK everywhere you got him. The good high upside is Marquise Goodwin. He's questionable with an ankle, a finger, I think like a hip. He's got a bunch of ailments that he's trying to deal with, but he's on the right side of starting as well. Very good upside and target share for this man. Also, he's got speed for days. The speed still hasn't lost a man, so I think that they could go deep quite a bit, even though DK is going to see the top-end coverage. This is good upside for a good win if you do have the kahunas to play him. he could definitely repay you in this contest big time and get you onto the fantasy football finals. It's no kidding. Will Dissly, Noah Fant. I'm giving Will Dissly high level. He hasn't done anything in weeks. Noah Fant, on the other hand, mid-level risk. He found his way into the end zone. I think you can actually play him this week, even though he is on the questionable tag with a knee injury. They're going to have to find other viable ways to move this ball now without Lockett, and I think Noah Fant is going to be the contributor that you can trust this week. Tampa Bay taking on the Arizona Cardinals, like I mentioned. Tom Brady. Okay, I'm going to go on a limb here, okay? I did this once before, and it backfired big time. I gave a majority of this offense green. I'm doing it again this week. I'm going hard with the Tampa Bay Bucks. Yes, they have not looked good, but Arizona is a complete dump fire, and I don't like it, man. Low level for a Tom Brady. Low level for a Leonard Fournette. Mid-level risk for a Rachaad White. You can fire up all those individuals. Low level for a Mike Evans. Low level for Chris Godwin, man. Fire them all up. Fire them up, because guess what? They are going to get you into the fantasy football playoffs. Arizona, I feel for the defense, because you're going to be put in horrific situations, and Tom Brady is going to figure out how to move this ball. Everybody's questioning, should Tom Brady retire? It's over. It's done. No more. This is the game where Tom Brady's going to say, hey, I can play for 5 more years, because he's going to throw a lot of balls. So I got to believe at least 2 touchdowns coming for Tom Brady. Mike Evans has to find his way back in the end zone. It's been far too long for this, man, so we'll see how that one does shake down. The Tennessee Titans on those Houston Texans. Malik Willis is your starting quarterback now that Ryan Tannehill is out, likely done for the rest of the season from what I'm hearing. You got no Treylon Burks, still questionable with the concussion. If he does come back, that's good news for this offense. You're definitely not playing him with a Malik Willis, because the passing aptitude just is not there, man. Derrick Henry does get you a stud start versus the Houston Texans that can't stop anybody on the ground. So the MO is just going to be run the ball with Derrick Henry, run the ball with Malik Willis on RPOs. You got to know it's coming to that fruition. And you got Robert Woods with a low floor. We got Westbrook, a keen mid-level risk. They're just not even close to being fantasy viable at this point, where we got Okonkwo. Finally got his name right. It's rolling off the tongue now. It's good, man. Go Okonkwo. Mid-level risk. We could see some play-action pass from a Malik Willis and maybe another touchdown for Okonkwo. He's got 64 points since taking over a bigger role in this offense. It's going to be an ugly game for the Titans, but Derrick Henry should get over 200 yards in this game and at least find the end zone one time. You got to believe. The Washington Commanders, the Commies. Let's finish this thing up, man. It's a big game for Washington, trying to keep pace as they lost to those Giants last week. This is it, man. Playoff lives hang in the balance for them as well versus a unbelievable San Francisco 49ers defense. Taylor, I keep saying Tyler, man. Everyone's calling me out. They're like, dude, his name is Taylor Heineke. You keep calling him Tyler. I apologize. Sometimes it happens, okay? I get it. Heineke, though, high-level risk. I do not like it whatsoever. The 49ers defense is going to come at him all day long. It's not going to be a good show, but I do think he's going to have at least enough to at least get his wide receivers like Terry McLaurin the ball, because the 49ers defensive secondary is, in the 20th percentile of giving up good amounts of points to wide receivers. So it is kind of one of those situations where Heineke could get, a couple interceptions, lower his, floor a little bit, where Terry McLaurin could raise his ceiling a little bit. So Heineke, high-level risk. I don't necessarily trust the running back room, because it's very hard to run against the 49ers defense anyway. Mid-levels for Gibson and a Robinson. If I'm picking, I think it's Gibson week this week. I think he's better in the pass game, and he's going to be able to at least do screen plays in the flats, take some pressure off of Taylor Heineke. Terry McLaurin, mid-level risk. Okay. It's been difficult with Terry, because he's got, 9 boom games, but they're on the low level, so it's like just over the boom threshold of 10 points. This is the semifinals. I drafted Terry for a reason. I've got him in keeper leagues for a reason. I'm firing up Terry McLaurin this week. They got enough chemistry, and I do believe the 49ers will be schemed up enough where Terry could get free. We're praying for a touchdown to save the day with Terry McLaurin. If it does not happen, we're going to be very disappointed. 7 to 8 points without a touchdown, I do believe, for Terry McLaurin this week. Curtis Samuel, mid-level risk. There is PPR upside for that man always, but it is riskier against this 49ers team, where Jahan Dotson now is on the straight-up TD upside and had 4 targets basically a week now that he's come back again. and he just finds his way into the end zone. When they're inside the 20-yard line, inside the 25-yard line, they just scheme up ways to get Jahan Dotson the ball, and he just makes a play himself and finds his way into the end zone. TD upside there, but it is, again, very low floor for Jahan Dotson as well. Logan Thomas, he has not been relevant for God knows how long, so you're not touching that, but there it is. The Washington Commanders as we finish off Week 16. So there you have it. That is week number 16, Fantasy Football Playoffs, the semifinals. Let's get to the finals, man. Hopefully I did more than enough to help you guys feel comfortable in your start sits. I throw them in the comments. You got some, pressing issues. I will definitely answer you back. But nevertheless, as always, don't forget to hit that like button, hit that subscribe button, jump in those comments. Merry Christmas, like I said. Have a great time, and we'll see you next time. I am out.